This is CBC Vancouver News.
When they arrested me, they tore my shoulder out of joint.
BC's police watchdog is investigating after a woman says she was seriously injured during a VPD arrest. Plus,
in the first year, 700 new doctors practice what's called longitudinal family practice.
it's been 1 year since a new payment model was introduced for family doctors. How the province says it's helping strengthen BC's broken healthcare system. And
this is a weekend of girls and their empowerment at its soul.
the Wickenheiser Female World Hockey Festival returns to Surrey this weekend. The aim to inspire more young women to take up the sport. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Tanya is away tonight. More shots are being fired at BC Cabinet Minister Selina Robinson and the Premier over what Robinson calls a flippant comment she made earlier this week about Israel before it was created.
They don't understand that it was a crappy piece of land with nothing on it. It couldn't grow things. It didn't have anything on it.
This time, the comment is receiving backlash from within. Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the federal NDP, expressing his concerns today on Instagram, calling her comments factually wrong, offensive, and irresponsible. Selina Robinson was speaking during a panel discussion about the need for more education on the Holocaust when she made the comment Tuesday. Since then, Robinson has apologized. Critics are calling for her position as Minister of Post-Secondary Education to be reassessed. Premier David Eby has not said whether Robinson will be fired or if she'd resign. BC's police watchdog is investigating an arrest by the Vancouver police last summer after a woman says the incident left her severely injured and in pain. As Moira Whiten reports, it could still be months until there are answers.
Andriana Robinson says her life was permanently changed here on this downtown block. The 54-year-old says she was on her way home from a night out with friends when she stopped to rest her leg. But Vancouver police arrested her when she refused orders to move along.
When they arrested me, they tore my shoulder out of joint. And that, when it was happening, I was trying to tell them, I'm hurt, you're hurting me, please stop. They felt like they needed to put me under control for some reason when I was giving no resistance and just had my hands up like this.
Robinson says she was intoxicated and told police she was trying to get home.
Police arrived, looked at my ID, and then started asking me, did I have a weapon? And I was like confused, bewildered, I was just sitting there by myself quietly. Why would you approach me?
Medical records show Robinson's shoulder was dislocated and her rotator cuff torn, likely requiring surgery. Robinson says she had never been arrested before that night. She obtained security footage of the incident and shared it with the CBC. In the video, she appears to cooperate and is not physically aggressive. At the time, police put her into handcuffs. BC's Independent Investigations Office confirmed last month it is investigating and will determine whether any force used during the arrest was necessary, reasonable, and proportionate.
One of the things that we need to look at in our investigation is, in fact, do the injuries meet the definition of serious harm?
Meanwhile, Robinson says the weight and injury have been devastating.
I lost my job. I'm having a hard time with health issues and emotional health issues, and I have a good family, good friends that are helping me through that, but it's life interrupting.
She says she fears her Afro-Indigenous heritage played a role and hopes answers will bring relief.
It could have been race, it could have been a gender nonconformity, it could have been cops having a bad day. It was definitely a poor choice.
Vancouver police told CBC they were not aware of the details that led to the IAO's investigation, and it would be inappropriate to comment before the investigation is complete. Moira Whiten, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, if you were out and about on the roads today, you may have noticed a little extra congestion. The Georgia Viaduct had significant lane closures to allow for the setup of a construction tower crane. It has since reopened to single-lane traffic until 6 tomorrow morning, after which it will be closed again until 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Meanwhile, the Lionsgate Bridge and the Stanley Park Causeway were down to single lanes today for ongoing tree removal work around Stanley Park. The City of Vancouver says more than 160,000 trees are being cut down due to the looper moth infestation. The bridge will be completely closed tomorrow morning, reopening at 11 a.m. And as for BC ferries, there will be no sailings in or out of Snug Cove this weekend while the terminal on Bowen Island undergoes repairs and upgrades. Foot passengers and cyclists can still get across on a water taxi. The same route will be impacted once more on March 9th. An elderly man is dead following a crash in Abbotsford this afternoon. Police say it happened just before 1 o'clock on the 31,000 block of Old Yale Road. When first responders arrived, they performed medical aid on the 84-year-old man who was driving one of the vehicles involved in the crash. The man, however, died at the scene. Police say the other driver was detained pending further investigation. Road closures are in effect, and investigators are asking anyone with information or dash cam footage to contact police. And in Surrey, one person was taken to hospital after a car crashed through a metal guard fence and into a wall this morning along Golden Ears Way. A metal pole could be seen sticking out from the vehicle's windshield. There is no word on the person's condition at this time. Surrey RCMP are investigating to determine whether speed or impairment were factors in the crash. A Vancouver woman is suing an e-bike company and a repair shop over a fatal fire 2 years ago that killed her partner and nearly killed her. The deadly fire took place in the apartment of Kellyanne Sharples and Tim Lilly. The blaze left Lilly dead. Sharples has now filed a lawsuit in provincial court alleging the fire was the fault of 2 Canadian companies and the battery's Chinese manufacturer. According to the lawsuit, the e-bike battery started to overheat, sparking the fire. Sharples alleges it was caused by a defect in its charging system. None of the allegations have been proven in court. The defendants, Surrey's Royer Batteries and Toronto's Daymark, did not respond to requests for comment. It's been 1 year since BC implemented a new payment model for family physicians in our province, a step aimed at addressing the dire doctor shortage in BC. As Sohrab Sandhu reports, experts say the new model is helping strengthen BC's broken healthcare system, but the work to improve access to care is far from over.
There's a worldwide physician shortage. Canada, the U.S., everywhere.
Dr. Robin Craven is an internationally trained doctor, recently graduating from St. George's University in the Caribbean, and is now practicing family medicine in BC's southern interior. Today, she and other BC healthcare workers are addressing prospective medical students at a seminar in Vancouver.
I'm well trained, I'm well able to do the work, I'm able to treat the patients the same as a Canadian trained.
Craven says the process to settle back in BC as a family physician had its hurdles, but the new longitudinal family physician payment model was a motivating factor.
Because you spent 8 years in school, your car is broken down, you don't have any good clothes, you want to be able to pay your loan, but you want to be able to have a little comfort, and you can definitely do that in BC on this new contract.
It's been 1 year since the new payment model was introduced as an option for doctors in BC. Health Minister Adrian Dix says the province has made some progress in recruiting and retaining the doctors since the rollout.
In the first year, 700 new doctors practice what's called longitudinal family practice, meaning they're practicing, they're family doctors and they're taking ongoing patients, which is a 16% increase in 1 year.
What we're actually seeing is Family doctors are staying in the system, and we're seeing new family doctors join family practice for the first time in a generation.
Last year, the province reported 895,000 people in BC were without a family doctor. Experts say the improved compensation model is just one piece of the puzzle, and several more steps are needed to strengthen and improve BC's broken healthcare system.
We're making substantial changes, not with just compensation, but with the way that family medicine is delivered across the province for patients. So that includes things like team-based care, which is starting to roll out across the province.
The province says it's also adding more resources to train doctors locally in BC, with a new medical school at Simon Fraser University and an additional 128 medical seats at UBC. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
The province has offered a $10 million compensation package for historic wrongs against the Sons of Freedom Doukhobors. This week, BC's Attorney General was in Castlegar and Grand Forks to issue private apologies to the communities. As Corey Bullock reports, it's a long-awaited recognition from the government.
Paulette Gagne's father, Peter Savinkoff, was one of more than 200 children seized by the government in the 1950s.
That trauma that New Denver instilled in him, as my mom said earlier, lived with him till the day he died, because he went back to being that little boy that was torn away from his parents and never got, and I'm sorry, we were wrong.
Many of the Doukhobors fled Russia and settled in the Kootenay Boundary region in the late 1800s. The province admits that it later targeted the Sons of Freedom Doukhobors, a group within the Doukhobor community. The Sons of Freedom were known for their naked protests and periodically burning down their own homes as a rejection of materialism. Adults were imprisoned and children were forcibly removed from their families and placed in institutions, namely a makeshift school in New Denver. The only contact with their families through a chain-link fence.
My dad starved in New Denver. He was a small man, and he was always hungry, and he was afraid.
The Attorney General issued a private apology in Castlegar and Grand Forks this week, along with a $10 million compensation package, around $3 million of which is allocated for mental health and well-being supports for survivors and their families.
We will make sure that the message and the components of it are guided by our discussions with survivors and their families.
The proposal still does not address the personal, individual compensation that we were all searching for.
For Laura Savinkoff, she says keeping the Doukhobor culture alive is imperative and hopes this funding will allow her children to do so.
This is up to us now. Those that of us, the survivors that are still alive, but our children, it's up to them.
Premier David Eby is expected to make a formal apology in the legislature on February 27th. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Up next, as Israeli forces push into the south of Gaza, civilians have nowhere to go and are increasingly caught in the middle of the fighting. We'll have your world news updates after the break. Israeli forces pressed ahead today with their offensive on southern Gaza, where half the enclave's population is crammed in and around the city of Rafah, fearing a full-scale bombardment. Gaza officials say an airstrike overnight hit a house in Rafah, killing 14 people. Israel has not confirmed it was responsible and says it's investigating. There are also reports of a residential district destroyed nearby. Israel is also facing accusations from the Palestinian Red Crescent. It says 43 people died in a 12-day siege on one of its headquarters, where it says civilians were sheltering. The U.S. and Britain launched a new series of strikes against Yemen's Houthi militants. Military officials say 36 targets were hit, most of them installations potentially involved with the Houthi attacks on the Red Sea. It comes a day after attacks on other Iranian-linked groups. As the CBC's Chris Reyes reports, it's all heightening fears of the regional conflict widening.
A region on edge over escalating tensions. Friday strikes on Syria and Iraq targeted Iran-backed militias that the U.S. says were behind the drone attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan last week. U.S. officials say the strikes successfully hit the group's operation centers and weapons storages. In a statement, President Biden said other strikes will come at times and places of our choosing.
I think what President Biden has tried to do is to walk a fine line between retaliation on the one hand and avoiding escalation. I expect more escalation in the next few days and few weeks, sadly for everyone concerned in the region.
From Syria and Iraq, strong condemnation. Officials from both countries blame the U.S. for inflaming tensions in the region. Iraqi officials say 16 people were killed, including civilians. This witness says rockets flew inside a residential compound, damaging people's properties. Warnings of escalating tensions in the Middle East have been ringing louder and louder since the October 7th attacks by Hamas on Israel.
If you ask me, what is the most important, basically action, decision, that could basically end this cycle, deadly cycle, vicious cycle of escalation? I would say a permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
While the U.S. has been clear that it doesn't support a ceasefire in Gaza, it is promising not to target Iran directly.
I think the Iranians have a lot of asymmetric, indirect, hybrid options that they can pursue to strike back at the U.S. The Iranians are not going to give up. They don't want war necessarily, but they certainly are not prepared to just accept an American strike and say that's it.
Leaving an already tense region waiting for anybody's next move. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Here we have a live shot of BC Place. Our sports news is coming up next. Stay with us.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond. Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
"80 teams from across North America are in Surrey this weekend for the annual Wickfest Female World Hockey Tournament, also known as Wickfest. As Shoria Chetri reports, the annual hockey festival provides a platform to spotlight and develop female hockey players and inspire more women to take up the sport.
Hundreds of young female hockey players laced up their skates for the 12th annual Wickfest this weekend in Surrey. The festival teaches young female athletes on-ice skills and beyond.
Wickfest is much more than hockey. I always say that there's a hockey tournament at its heart, but this is a weekend of girls and their empowerment at its soul.
Price says she co-founded the festival with Olympic gold medalist Hayley Wickenheiser in 2010, following the Olympics in Vancouver, to help foster and develop the next generation of female hockey players.
There's been a lot of very positive outcomes from Wickfest. I've been able to watch girls actually grow through the program. It started as 5-year-olds and now they're 18, graduating out of minor hockey.
One of them is Isabella Conci, number 11 for the Nelson Wildcats.
I'm a huge supporter of female hockey, and what Wickfest does for the female community is huge. Without this tournament, I don't think female hockey would be as big as it is.
And now with the Professional Women's Hockey League off the ground, Conci is feeling even more inspired.
I love that the PWHL is encouraging female hockey and getting their teams going and being good role models for us and all the younger girls.
Conci joins 1,500 other young athletes in participating in the 4-day tournament, which is on until February 4. And while many at Wickfest are here for the thrill of the game, others are hoping to follow in the footsteps of their hockey idol, Hayley Wickenheiser.
She's just an amazing player to look up to. Ever since I was little, I've always thought of Hayley Wickenheiser as my mentor. She's a great, I love to look up to her and want to play how she played. She's an amazing player.
Wickenheiser wasn't present during the event because she is in Toronto for the NHL All-Star weekend. But in a statement, she says, "Our goal is to inspire and see these young athletes grow to become truly exceptional hockey players."
I really enjoy the games. Even if we aren't doing the best, it's still really fun to just get this opportunity to get to play against these teams.
Shoria Chetri, CBC News, Surrey.
Toronto fans came out in force to see their favorite NHL stars showcase their talents on the ice in front of a sold-out crowd at Scotiabank Arena. As Ithel Musa reports, serious ongoing news off the ice is also grabbing headlines.
Put your hands together for the 2024 NHL All-Stars.
It's been more than 20 years, but the NHL All-Star game has returned to Toronto. It all started in 1947 when the Maple Leafs hosted the first match. Today, hockey fans are welcoming the game back.
All the top dogs are going to be here. It should be fun.
On Friday, Oilers captain Connor McDavid bested other players in speed and accuracy in the skills competition, securing the $1 million prize.
Is Will Arnett.
But fans aren't here just to see the league's top players. Canadian stars like Justin Bieber, Michael Bublé, and Tate McRae are also making appearances as celebrity captains. But the star-studded spectacle is all happening as the NHL grapples with a major sexual assault controversy.
A little disappointing just for Hockey Canada itself, but we'll see in the next few weeks.
4 current players and 1 former NHLer are set to appear in a London, Ontario courtroom on Monday to face sexual assault charges tied to an alleged group incident in 2018 when the players were members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team.
This is not representative, these allegations, of what takes place in our game, and we're committed to setting the right example.
Bettman says the players allegedly involved are all on leave from their NHL teams. He also says the league has completed its own year-long external investigation into the incident, but the NHL will not release the results. Ithel Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
With the Canucks at the top of the charts, it's no surprise the team was well represented at the NHL All-Star game this weekend. 5 Canucks players and their coach were on hand.
3 competitors remaining in the passing competition. Elias Pettersson next.
Canucks defenseman Elias Pettersson won the passing challenge and came third in the hardest shot competition, a runner-up to his teammate JT Miller, who came in second, clocking 102 miles per hour. Goalie Demko and Captain Hughes came in top 5 for the couple of events, but ultimately only Miller and Pettersson made it to the top 10 for the final standings. That is your late news for this Saturday. Thank you so much for watching. For news at any hour, you can always head to our website, cbc.ca/bc. Have a great night.